Money, money, money. Written by Lisa Ng. Focused question: how has money changed over time? Table of contents. Introduction. Bartering. Currency. Coins. Paper money. The value of money. Keeping money real. Invisible money. Checks and credit cards. Conclusion. Glossary. Whether or not I turn on my microphone? Yes, I did. Introduction. An ordinary piece of paper isn't worth much at all, but a piece of paper money can be worth several $1,000s. A check can be worth millions. Each printed bill is worth much more than a paper is printed on. But why? Where did money come from? What makes money so valuable? And why do people want it? Money is valuable because the people who make and use it agree on its determined value. The government that issues it, the engraving agency that designs it, the mine that strikes or prints it, the banks that hold it, and the people who buy and sell things, with it all agreed that the money can accept is worth a specific amount. The history of money is the fascinating story of how people who traded valuable objects began to trade items that represented the valuables. The story also explains how technology creates invisible money that allows people to trade goods and services around the world without being in the same place as each other. Bartering. Several thousand years ago, people used to barter in order to get what they didn't have or couldn't make. Oh wait, I think that will try to figure out the new words first before reading the book, because sometimes I wanna make sense the paragraph, and if there's a new word in the paragraph, then I don't really understand the true meaning of it. So I think I'll just skip to the end of this book. I can read their glossary, but it's so long. Oh wait.
Good job.
I haven't read it yet. Hey, need to start all over again, just because I am beyond it a little bit. Wait for a few minutes. Okay, so I think I'll read it first before reading the glossary. So I read the introduction, right? Money is worth much more than the paper is printed on. Bartering. Several thousand years ago, people used to barter in order to get what they didn't have or couldn't make. People living near the ocean had fish, salt, and shells, which they traded with people living near the mountains who had fruit, wood, and furs. People still barter with each other today. If you trade an apple from your lunch for the candy bar in someone else's lunch, you are bartering. However, there's several problems with bartering because not everyone has the same wants or needs. You might want some goods or valuable objects from someone, but they might not want the goods that you have, or vice versa. Additionally, many items are heavy, hard to carry, and don't last long. Figuring out how many of one item equals a certain number of another item can be difficult. It will also be difficult to determine the value of raw materials versus that of finished goods. Is it a stack? Is a stack of logs worth the same amount of the table and chairs made from those logs? Currency. To solve the problems of bartering, people invented currency, objects that represented certain values. For example, a group of people might agree that a cow was worth 20 shells and a large ship was worth 2 shells. People could trade goods for currency and vice versa, as long as everyone in the transaction agreed upon the value of the currency being traded. Each culture around the world chose a different type of currency to represent the value of its goods. The objects people used were usually light enough to carry, but rare enough that people couldn't just pick them up off the ground. The rarer the item used for currency and the more work it took to find it, the more valuable people decided it was. Some of the items used as currency in ancient times were bright or colorful stones, striped or spotted shells, particular leaves, certain birds' feathers, lumps of silver and gold, salt, honey, bread, spices, and gems or pieces of glass. In ancient Rome, a soldier's salary was paid in bags of salt. From Africa to Asia, people traded with rare speckled shells that were only found in a few islands in the Indian Ocean. The ancient Egyptian government paid its workforce in quantities of honey and bread. Some Native Americans used wampum, beds made from clam shells, to trade and make treaties. Other Native Americans used eagle feathers. The Chinese used bundles of tea leaves, and European colonists in North America used tobacco leaves as their currency. The problem with currency of this type was that it was hard to decide how much a particular object was worth. If one shell was much larger than another shell, shouldn't it be worth more? Did the different stripes of dots on the shells mean something different? And what if you met somebody who didn't think your shells were worth anything at all? For trade to be viable, both parties had to want what the other had and agree on its value. Coins. One solution to the problems of using ordinary objects as currency was to create coins out of precious metals. Precious metals, especially gold, silver, and copper, are rare and valuable across many cultures, and they are easier to shape and weigh than shells or feathers. Metals are heavier than shells, and feathers but last longer and don't readily react with the elements, although copper oxidizes when exposed to extreme moisture. These metals are chosen for coinage because they are malleable and durable. The first coins was minted or produced 2,600 years ago in Sardis, Lydia, now part of Turkey. Some of these coins had the head of a lion on them and were called tries. Some Lydia coins quickly spread into the neighboring countries of Persia, now known as Iran and Greece. The earliest coins were struck on a cast in natural combination of gold and silver called electrum. These coins were very rough and crude, with no patterns on the signs of standard sizes and weights. Later, coins were made from pure metals such as copper, silver, and gold. Mixed metals such as bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, were also used for coinage. The coins had standard weights, and the ruler seal was stamped on one side to confirm the coin's quality. In addition, to stop people from shaving the edges of coins to collect enough metal to make more coins, ridges were incised on the outer edges. This technique made it easier to determine when coins had been altered. Early European coins usually had God's head or symbol on one side and a seal from the marker on the other. Later coins pictured the heads of rulers on one side and elaborate symbols of the empire on the other side. These pictures helped establish when, where, and by whom the coins were made. Even today, you can see the faces of presidents, kings, and queens on modern coins, and sometimes even a particular mind where the coin was struck. The Chinese made coins by melting copper and pouring it into molds. This process is called casting. Chinese coins were cast with square holes in the centers so that thousands could be carried on a ribbon or stake. Instead of pictures, the Chinese coins, called cash, had words telling their worth or denomination. The Chinese also made coins using bronze, silver, or gold. Only the government could produce coins. Paper money. A Chinese man named Cai Lun invented paper 1,900 years ago, but it wasn't used for money until 700 years later when the Chinese government began to print paper money. The earliest paper money was created using a woodcut printing method. The specific designs and denominations were drawn on wooden blocks, and the background are carved away. Then the block was covered with ink and pressed onto the uniformly sized rectangles of paper. Red and black inks were used, and the seals of the issuing banks were applied to parts of the bills. The officials who issued the currency put their names and seals on them. Although coins were still available, the lighter paper money quickly became more popular. The Chinese called it flying cash because it could blow away in a breeze. In Europe, another invention changed the shape and widespread usage of currency. Johannes Gutenberg invented the movable type printing press in the mid-1400s. This press, which used metal type blocks, transferred images onto paper faster and better than much older wooden block presses. Gutenberg's press allowed people to print paper money by machine rather than by hand. So here the process of making a coin. First they will draw their temporary president in the coin, and they will pour it into a mold, and a person who will examine and examine it thoroughly to make sure the coins was perfect, I think, and it will transfer it to all of the worlds for people to activate transaction or to trade goods. Here, as you can see, the process of it. If you want to learn more about minting coins, then pause this video and read this whole process. The value of money. Unlike metallic coinage, paper money is worth little by itself, merely because people agree that metal is worth more than paper and ink. It costs only 4 US cents to print a bill, including the cost of paper, ink, and the printer's pay. So why is one bill worth $100 while another is worth only $1? The simple answer is that the government says so. In 1900s, the U.S. Congress passed the Gold Standard Act requiring that for each dollar in circulation, there was $1 worth of gold in the bank. The U.S. government used specific collection facilities, including the bullion depositories at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and West Point, New York, to store the nation's gold. Other collection facilities under the United States mined are the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Assay Office. Most countries have not participated in the gold standard since 1971. There's simply too much currency needed in circulation. The bills represent more wealth, goods, and valuables than there is gold in the world. Printing officially stopped during the gold standard in 1931, and the United States stopped 40 years later. Today, governments keep track of how many goods and resources there are in a country and circulate enough currency to represent those goods and resources. Depending on how many goods and resources a country produces and how successful its businesses are, the value of country's money can rise or fall compared to other countries' currencies. This is called a floating currency system. The currencies themselves are called fiat money because they're intrinsically worthless and are used only as a method of exchange. Those currencies have only the values that the issuing governments say they have. Keeping money real. Many agree that only governments can create currency because they keep track of the actual goods and resources that the currency represents. Governments usually collect mutilated bills and replace them with new bills to keep the correct ratio between the amount of currency in circulation and the country's gross domestic product (GDP), the amount of finished goods and services available within a country. Sometimes governments print more currency than that GDP can support, which results in hyperinflation. During periods of hyperinflation, prices can be more than triple in a single day. But what if people try to produce money on their own? Fake money, called counterfeit, isn't worth anything because it isn't backed up by goods or resources and is not created by a government. Banks, stores, restaurants, and other companies do not allow anyone to use counterfeit money. Worse, having counterfeit money in circulation devalues the genuine currency in circulation. If there's fake money around, how do you know whether or not your money is real? In order to defeat counterfeiters, most countries make the currency using a special hard-to-copy technique. Since 1879, the paper for all U.S. currency has been made by one company, Crane & Co. in Dalton, Massachusetts. Bills are printed on paper that is made using a secret formula. U.S. dollars are made of a mixture of about 1/4 linen and 3/4 cotton, with some red and blue silk fibers sprinkled throughout. However, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing (BEP) keeps the exact formula a secret, the way Coca-Cola protects the secret recipe for its famous soda pop. A special thread below the portrait glows in ultraviolet or black line. The ink on genuine bills is slightly raised so you can feel it when you run your finger over the painting. Printing. Raised printing is called intaglio. Painting from the Italian word meaning to cut, because the image is cut into the background of the printing plate. Banks in some stores use special pens with ink that turns from black to yellow on real cotton and lined bills, but stays black on fake bills copied on cellulose or wood-paste paper. Oh my god, there's so many pages left. Wait a minute, okay, wait a minute. The pictures and print on bills are designed to prevent easy copying. The portraits, large and detailed, placed slightly off-center and made of fine dashed lines. The patterns on the bill are small and complicated. They're difficult to see and even more difficult to reproduce. Each bill has a serial number that appears twice on the face of the bill, showing how and when it was printed. In addition, many bills are printed with various ink colors, magnetic inks, and drawing inks that change colors depending on the angle you look at them. Just as the paper has a special formula, the ink formulas are kept secret by the government. Some bills have holograms or watermarks that reveal other images only when you hold the bills up to a line source. Invisible money, checks and credit cards. Most adults have a checking account. Banks keep track of how much money a person has in his or her account. When the person writes checks, official notes that stand for a certain amount. The bank reduces the total in a person's account by that same amount. Checks can represent a large amount of money on a single piece of paper. Many checking accounts are connected to debit cards that people can use to take cash from their accounts and automatic teller machines (ATMs) or pay for things at shops and restaurants. Credit cards work like debit cards and checking accounts, except that instead of drawing from their deposit accounts, people borrow money from the bank. People can use credit cards to buy items that cost more than they have saved in the bank. Then when they pay back the money, they have to pay an additional fee called interest. If someone takes a long time to pay back the money, the interest can accumulate into larger amounts. If you can become expensive, if you regularly borrow on a credit card and don't pay off the balance in a relatively short period of time. A sign number and stamped onto one side, along with the name of the bank that issued the account. Amenity Street. Okay. Okay, I think that's it. Balloon. Hyperinflations.
Good job.
Let's do the plus. Here the cars, initials for currency. Mind mean. The value of money. The meaning of currency. Culture, world enough. What is the main idea of the section titled coins? What do the other feel about invisible money? What is the main similarity between coins and currency? Which of the following tells the meaning of butter? It depends, but I think like money has changed over time dramatically. really like convenient because from paper to coin, then to cash to credit card, something like that.
You did it. Perfect.